Are you confused about all the different types of fishing line? We're going to talk about that.
Welcome back to another episode of 5-Minute Fish Talk.
It's Friday morning, it's 8 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. Where else would I be but the 5-Minute Fish Talk studio? That's right, we make weekly episodes here at 5-Minute Fish Talk. The other thing that we do is we load 5 minutes on its time here. You know what that means. It's time to get real. We're talking about fishing line today. I know, there's already been so many discussions on the internet about this very subject. Here's the thing, I've had some viewers actually ask me about fishing line, what the differences are, what I like to use, so on and so forth. So what I wanted to do is just take those questions and then turn them into an episode of 5-Minute Fish Talk. If you ever have any recommendations for 5-Minute Fish Talk, just drop a comment below. Okay, so there's three primary types of fishing line. You got monofilament, you got fluorocarbon, and you've got braid. What are the key differences between all three of these? What do I like to use? I'm going to talk about each one individually, and then at the end of this video we can form a conclusion for what's going to work best for you. Okay, so let's start with monofilament. This one's been around forever. I will say this, if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend a ton of money, monofilament's probably the best option for you because it's really cheap. Something like, Trilene Big Game or even just like a Cabela's brand, whatever, you can get them for a few bucks and it's going to get the job done. The reason that I actually don't hardly use it at all, and a lot of bass fishermen don't use much of it at all, is because it's super stretchy. What does that do? One, it creates a lack of sensitivity, and so you're not going to be able to detect bites quite as well because of that stretch factor. The next thing is your hook penetration on most fishing lures is going to be pretty bad. Because of all that stretch between your rod tip and the fish, you will probably miss a lot more fish with mono than you would the other types of line because they're lower stretch and higher sensitivity. So let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum, braid. I use a good amount of braid, especially on spinning reels. It's the highest sensitivity, the lowest stretch, and it really is a great fishing line. Now, where would I not use it? Because this is not invisible like the other two, these ones are either green or red or yellow, I tend not to use it a lot for my subsurface fishing lures unless I'm using it on spinning gear and using a fluorocarbon leader. So you notice with my spinning reels, I use all braid. It just tends to work best with my reel and not give me any issues on the reel itself. And so I really, really love braid. And on top of that, you're getting a lot of sensitivity. I love the high vis yellow, so that way you can see it really easily and detect bites even if you don't feel them. But I don't like doing that on casting solely because of the line diameters. For some reason, I've never found a knot that I like that goes through the guides easily and that I really like on casting gear. So the only casting reels that I really use braid for is anything that I'm going to be throwing like heavy cover. And then on top of that, I love throwing braid with all of my top waters because this also floats and it does not, have any problematic effect on the action of the topwater itself. So you can use either mono or braid for topwaters. You cannot really use fluoro. So let's talk about fluoro. This is really, 70 to 80% of what I use. Pretty much all of my casting rods and reels have fluorocarbon on them. Anywhere from 10 all the way to 25-pound test. And then, like I said, I use it as leader material on my spinning reels. What's so great about fluoro? One, it's incredibly invisible, so it's like practically fish cannot see this thing. So you can use as light as possible in the water you're fishing. And two, what's great about it is it's pretty daggum sensitive. It has a little bit of stretch to it, but not enough to where it's going to make a huge impact on your fishing. It does have a good amount of memory. By that I mean it basically if it's on a reel, it's going to coil up a little bit. Not quite as much as mono, but you know what? That's something that you can kind of overcome with time. You'll probably have to replace it more frequently than braid, obviously, but overall, it's going to just do a lot of good for you. So realistically, fluorocarbon's kind of like the bass fisherman's best friend. If you can get away with braid, I would always try it, but because I'm fishing clearer water, that tends to be where I don't use a lot of braid, if that makes sense. So what's the conclusion for you? If you're fishing around a lot of heavy cover and you're fishing a lot of dirty water, I would try to just go ahead and use braid. If you're fishing in clear water, if you're fishing deeper, if you're fishing, for really finicky fish, use fluorocarbon. And lastly, if you just don't care that much about all that stuff, but you want to remain on a budget, I would go with monofilament. So that's all I have for you today. Hey, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please do leave those in the comments below because then I can't get to everything in 5 minutes. Otherwise, you know what I'm going to say next, right? Have yourself a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you next time.